Do you feel you were born for more? Get ready to uncover your God-given purpose so you can impact the world with your gifts, your talents, and your story. Welcome to the Purpose Power Summit. I'm your host, Mimika Cooney, and today's guest is going to share how to seize opportunities. Robin Dance decided to put her professional career on hold to parent hard and on purpose before eventually discovering she could serve others with marketing, sales, PR, and copywriting experience. A love of writing led her to blogging, and since 2008, she's contributed to 8 books and written features for Home Life and Mature Living magazines. Fiercely believing in the value and the strength of words, Robin advocates for Compassion International. It's her most privileged and humbling work to date. She joined a team of compassion bloggers in Kolkata, India, lending her voice to children in poverty to help secure sponsors and funding. Robin writes for Encourage, Dayspring's online faith community for women, The Art of Simple, Grace Table, Deeper Story, and her own site. So welcome, Robin. Welcome to the show today. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm so excited about what you have to share because you have a really great story that I know a lot of our audience probably would find themselves in your story. A lot of us women start off life, get married, have kids, and then there's always that sort of something that kind of starts peeking its way and sort of nudging on us thinking, there's something I want to do with my life. And for you, it was writing. And I love how you've been able to take the love of what you started doing in blogging and started expanding that. But before we go into some awesome tips about what you're going to share today, tell our audience a little bit about your story and how you got to doing what you're doing today.
I would love to, because I think our stories are so important to encouraging one another. And so a piece of mine might resonate with a piece of yours. And so I hope that through the telling of mine that you'll be encouraged to tell yours and to understand how that feeds into the opportunities that are right under your nose. You've already mentioned it in sharing a little bit about my background, and that is I'm an accidental blogger. And how that occurred is simply through my career and education. I've always had a love of words through career, put that on hold to have my children. And then once we moved to a new place in a new town and I had time on my hands, a friend asked me to read a blog. I had never even heard of that term before. And so after reading, I thought, that's a way I can continue to use my education and my skill set for my career in a creative way. And so I started writing without an audience. I didn't even know an audience was a thing. I wrote purely for the love of writing, as if someone was reading. But for 6 months, no one even had my blog URL, not even my husband. And so eventually, over the course of time, of course, blogging changed, and I began to have opportunities through that writing. You began to see that there were others out there like you. And so as I began, as I continued to practice the craft of writing, again, for the sake of a creative outlet, I began to find community and opportunity, and you begin to rub shoulders with people in that world. There were things going on in my personal life that catapulted me into the online life. We were in a new place. I was having difficulty finding community in my real life, and it wasn't for sake of trying. Sometimes we try so hard to find community, and it still eludes us. And so I was diving deep into that online world and probably putting too much value in that space. But at the time, it was feeding me. I think a lot of us, for those of you who are have interest in writing, you're words of affirmation women. And so if you're getting affirmation in that place in the online world, you're going to keep feeding it and sowing into it, what I did. So eventually, long story short, and we can get into some of that in a little bit, opportunities started coming my way. I said yes to many. Some were great yeses, some were not. My work with Encourage is one of my favorite things as well. And so that began to open doors. And it all feeds into a timing issue. You can get to a point in life where, say you've been an at-home mom, as I was, many of you are. There's a point at which your kids are going to leave, and that's a good thing. That is what you're raising them to do. Hopefully, independence is a virtue, and you're trying to cultivate that in your children. And so when that happens, then what? And so that is where I'm going to spend some of my time focusing, is talking about intentional living, taking advantage, seizing those opportunities that are really right in front of you, and maybe you were missing because you were comparing yourself to what you saw someone else doing. I am convinced, and I know you've heard this before, comparison is the thief of joy, and we've got to stop doing it, ladies. And so if you stop looking at what others are doing, it's amazing. You're going to start seeing what is available to you, and maybe with a different heart, a different mind, a different set of eyes, a totally different lens. And as you enter these new seasons in life, as your children begin to need you less, a toddler certainly needs you to do everything for him or her. You get to those grade school years, they can do a little more. You get to middle school and high school, and all of a sudden they're driving, and then college or vocation, and they're gone. And so, and I know I'm speaking to moms, but even those outside of that, your seasons will change. And so what are you going to do then? So let's talk about that.
Definitely. I love how you say that, it's good to be aware and just really present with where you are in your season, and not to worry about what Susie Q down the road is doing. And I know about you, I've had that problem as well, constantly thinking I'm not where she is and look how far ahead she is. And then it makes us feel terrible at ourselves. Yes. Instead of us just celebrating where we are. Like my kids I have a almost 19-year-old, a 16-year-old and a 7-year-old. And the 7-year-old has different needs to what the 16-year-old does. But again, I've always been one of those who've really encouraged women to continue pursuing their dreams and their talents. Doesn't mean you have to put your life completely on hold. But I think a lot of us might have maybe started off, like especially the college years, right? This big push, you got to get your education, you got to get your 4-year degree. And then when you get a degree, and then us women end up maybe putting our careers on hold for our children. But then what do we do then, right? So you're going to dive in with some great tips about how we can pull out those opportunities, that we don't have to feel like life has passed us by. You're never too old and you're never too late, right?
Absolutely. And we've got to start feeding that. We've got to stop buying into it, because we do in subtle ways, I think more so than directly.
Exactly. Well, let's dive right in. Let's get some notes, pad and paper, everybody. Robin is going to share some great notes with you. And to accompany that, she does have a great gift she's giving our audience today. If you haven't yet done so, go to mimikacooney.com, click on the Summit tab, and you'll get access to her download gift, which is called 1 Year 365 Opportunities Guide. But let's dive right into the content. What is your first tip you have for us today?
So I'm going to make it easy for us to remember. At the top of your page, if you will write in all capital letters the word goods, GOODS. And that's just to help you remember what we're talking about now. You've got a lot of great speakers you're going to be listening to over the next several days, and I want to help you remember what we've talked about. So here's your chance. How are you going to find and make the most of your opportunities? Let's start with the first G, God first. This conference, this online summit, is geared toward women of faith. I like words. Can you tell? And this seems like such an obvious thing for women of faith, that it's got to be God first. But sometimes we profess what we don't actually practice. And I'm calling us to be women who practice what we profess. So God first, taken straight out of Matthew, particularly verse 6:33, and I'm going to read it so I don't stumble over my words. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. And this is in context of where Jesus is talking to followers who are worried about physical things and material things. And he's saying, seek God first. And so I have found in a very real way that as I began to really investing in the kingdom things and to seeking God and what was his leading for my life, oh, wow. Can you believe that he actually shows you? You begin to see things because you are seeking. So first letter in goods, God first. Second letter. Can we move right on, Mimika? Let's move on.
Yes, sure. I mean, as I said, we know we're going to cover this, and what it is as you're hearing what Robin has to say, I would advise, like, as these little words come up to you, you can go back and revise this, but we've got some really actionable tips. So yes, go ahead with number 2. What's the second one?
The next word in our series is offer. Offer what you have. Let's look at 1 Corinthians 12, 4-7. Now, there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit, and there are varieties of service, but the same Lord. And there are varieties of activities, but it is the same God who empowers them all and everyone. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for what? For the common good. So offer what you have. God did not waste his time making you. Celebrate who you are and your uniqueness. If you are so busy trying to be someone else or to track with someone else's ministry, you're going to go in circles. And it is futile, and it is a waste of what God has gifted you and only you to do. You need to recognize that you are not here by accident. You are not a mistake. There is a plan for your life, and God is waiting on you. In the economy of God, he knows the end from the beginning and the beginning from the end, and it's a done thing. So if I were you, like me, I want to get about his business.
Yeah, I love what you said, how you said that God is often waiting on us. And I think that's a big thing. That's something that I've had to learn as well, is that we said, they're waiting, God, is this going to happen? Why aren't you coming? Sometimes he's like, well, I'm waiting for you to decide or you to take action. Because, having a pity party, you're the only one at the party. No one else wants to join you.
Exactly. Misery does love company, but it's you, yourself, and I, right? Or me, myself, and I, right? And so recognize if there is a stirring in your spirit, you need to listen to that. If there is something that you just keep revisiting, and even if it's in your quiet interior places, if it's a hope, it's a dream, if it's something you've never vocalized, if it is something that has been your companion for a while, you need to listen to that, and then you need to act on it. So recognize God first. Offer what you already have, ladies. This isn't conjuring something new. This is something that already exists within who you are and how you're wired. What's our third call to action is to open your eyes. And this ties in to the gift I have for you all. And that is 1 year, 365 opportunities. Now, this is very personal to me. It is my word of the year, my one word of the year. And I'm sure some of you choose those as a banner for your year and kind of a touchstone for direction in your year. For me, that word this year is oito. And it is derived from 1 year, 365 opportunities. And it seems so common. It seems like such an ordinary thing. But what I realized is every minute of every day, every second of every minute, we have some sort of opportunity right in front of us. And so if we're living with great intention, then we can take advantage of opportunity after opportunity after opportunity if we are attentive, if we are opening our eyes to what is right in front of us. Again, if we use that comparison thing, then we might be looking at what someone else is doing. We're missing what is for us and waiting on us. Mm-hmm. And I think it's not so much, sometimes we get caught up in an issue of size. Well, I'm not going to be impacting a lot of people. That is a lie from the pit. Size doesn't matter. Stewardship matters. And what am I talking about stewarding? A lot of times we think often in terms of money, stewardship of money. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about your talents, your resources, what is available to you that's not available to anyone else. And I think we miss a lot when we cheat ourselves and we cheat those around us when we don't open our eyes for what God has for us in this moment. And so my gift to you all is just some ideas beautifully created to get you thinking in the same way that I'm talking about, so you aren't missing the things that are available for you to impact the world.
And what I loved about, like, when we had a chat before we had the interview, and we talked about how this is your yes year, right? And how a lot of time is like, even though when you felt totally unprepared for this interview itself, but you knew that you needed to take that action and to say yes, because even though you might not feel 100% prepared, God's given you enough to go with that you can just say yes and then get the pieces. Because don't you think a lot of us women dismiss ourselves as, oh, I'm not ready yet. Oh, I'm not educated enough. Oh, I'm not old enough. Oh, I'm not young enough. Or kind of always saying, oh, I can't because...
Fill in the blank. You're absolutely right. And I think what we have to realize, first of all, I think we need to know that not every opportunity is a yes. Sometimes there are good opportunities that are wise to say no to. And that's why seeking God first is so critical, I think, in this whole equation. But when we say yes to the good things, and not just the good things, but the God things, it feeds our soul and it blesses others. It's rarely going to just stay within us, right? It's going to be a benefit to someone else. And you have no idea what you're seeding in someone else. When you say the obedient yes. And I think, you know what? I think fear is a great driver, because if there's something that we're a little scared of, well, then that means God gets the greater glory, because we aren't doing it in our own strength. We are doing something because we have opened our hands. It's an offering to God. It blesses others. And so he is going to do for us what we can't do ourselves.
And
So,
isn't that great? We can take the pressure off ourselves. It means we don't have to perform, and we're like, okay, God, you said you're going to do it. So here you go. Just take my loaves and fishes and you do the multiplication. I'll just sit here patiently and wait.
yes.
Which can be hard.
God knows I don't do numbers, so he's in charge of the multiplication part. Yeah, I do words.
Exactly.
Yeah. I really do get myself into trouble with the numbers. But okay, so let's do a quick review. God first, G, offer what you have. The O, the next O was open your eyes. What is our D? Don't forget you have an enemy. I think we need to remember that there is an enemy of our heart, and his delight is our despair. His delight is our discouragement. And so we need to remember that, and then to fight it in the spiritual realm. I think, again, if we are doing this order of seeking God first, he does the battle for us. Don't listen to the naysayers in your life. Don't listen to resistance. If you've read The War of Art, and I recently read that, Stephen Pressfield's War of Art, he names this resistance, and I see it in so many ways. And I don't even dignify him by calling him by name. I say he's the enemy of my heart. And I love this quote by John Eldredge. I picked up this book years ago during a time where I was pity party of one, and I was wallowing in despair. And I really felt, I describe myself as a dead woman walking almost. And I picked up this book called Waking the Dead, right? This is the quote. The story of your life is the story of the long and brutal assault on your heart by the one who knows what you could be and fears it. So the enemy of our heart fears our potential. He will do anything to distract us or disorient us or discourage us in order to keep us from doing the business that God has for us. And so I think we are wise when we are mindful of that. Don't need to focus on him. Don't need to give him a lot of time. But we do need to remember that there is one against us, not your circumstances. It is not your family. It is not your friends. It is not your workplace, any of the things that drag you down. Those things are not your enemy. The obstacles are not your enemy. You have one enemy. Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time is we get stuck at looking at our circumstances, and we think, like, say, for instance, you talk about blogging, for instance, you want to blog it and you send the link out to your friends, and all of a sudden you might get some not so pleasant comments from people who think like, who are you to write? And I don't understand, your grammar was awful. And you start to hear these negative, and then that totally destroys your confidence. And then you stop doing what you're doing. If you could recognize that is the resistance that's going to come against you, and you realize what it is. When we walk around with our eyes wide open, we're able to discern what is of God. And of course, and I've had this recently coming from people who are well-meaning family members who might say something because of their own issues that aren't necessarily what God wants me to hear, but it's how they're used in the situation. And I think it really helps to reframe, instead of us feeling like, okay, dismissive or as victims, or I can't do this, because I think it really helps, right, to kind of reassess where we thinking when we get that kind of resistance.
I think you're absolutely right. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about one of the biggest bullies in every woman's life, and that is herself. We speak to ourselves in a way that we would never speak to anyone else. The lies that we believe, the lies that we tell ourselves, the lies that we buy into, the harsh words we say, the condemnation that we heap on ourselves, we're part of that resistance sometimes. We don't even need an enemy of our heart. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy. And so I think this actually leads into my last point, the S in goods. That's to start right now, because we can make excuses until the cows come home. I know one thing, and I want to speak to ladies who are of age. Okay, so say you're a mom and your children are getting older and need you less and less. Say they have flown the coop and you are an empty nester like me. You can start to think that the world has passed you by, and you mentioned that. And I think that's why this conference is such a great thing, because this is a league of women, a sisterhood of women. We are cheering you on, okay? We are your pep talk, and you need to have this in real life. you can make excuses about age. And you know what? There's some things that are real out there. There's some real resistance out there. There is ageism. There is discrimination against women. There are a lot of things that can come against you. But what is your response going to be? There's a quote, a movie that I thought was really a great movie quite a while back, The Shawshank Redemption. And it's from two men having a conversation in prison. And one says to the other, get busy living or get busy dying. And so we want to live. I think it glorifies God when we become fully who he intends us to be. He is the one who receives the glory. It's not, we could tend to be glory hogs. I think humans have to fight that battle of wanting to make much of ourselves.
It's the pride, right? The pride comes in and it's like, what about me? What about me? And it's like,
I know. And when I see it, it's ugly when we find it, isn't it? Let's weed that out. Lord, keep us humble, keep us low. But you need to remember that your poor choices in the past don't necessarily define your future. What are you going to do with what you've learned? One of those things as I look back at my life, and, I consider, I'm an empty nester now, so I can speak to the younger women. I can also speak to my peers. I can also speak to the women who are in front of me by a few years. We have earned our experience, ladies. The things that you know at 40, you didn't know at 30. That's 10 years of living. That is a lot of days in between 30 and 40. The things you know at 50 that you didn't know at 40. Ladies, this is an experience that is valuable. You need to sow into the lives of those behind you and to your peers the value of the things that you've learned, the benefit of your experience, because it is not wasted. You earned it the hard way. You have climbed mountains. You have barreled through mountains. You have walked around mountains. But there are a lot of mountains that today you sit on the other side of. And so I want to encourage you, if you've been waiting on permission, this summit is giving you permission to take the next step, to do the thing. If you've been waiting for a sign from God, well, I'm not purporting to be God, but Christ lives in me, and I want to encourage you, let this be your sign. Let us be the match that sparks a flame into existence, whatever it is that is percolating in your heart. You have got to seize that opportunity because now is the time. Don't let your past anchor you. Don't let the negativity in your life tell you no. Open your eyes wide. Look at all these goods that are right in front of you. Make the most of these opportunities because there is no time like the present. The time is now, my friends.
Well, I'll tell you, that should be a commercial, right? Exactly. Those last few lines are like, definitely. I mean, I love how you have the tools, but you also have the opportunity. And a lot of the time is we just have to reframe our thinking and start to see the things, like you said, open your eyes, take that action. And it could just mean baby steps, right? We don't have to expect you to overtake the world in the next month or so. This is part of why being so passionate about this summit is that putting like-minded women together, women of faith who believe and who are maybe a few steps ahead of you, who can help pull you up, because that's why we need each other and why we call the body of Christ.
Exactly.
You can't do this alone.
So what you can do, I can't do. And what I can do, you might not be able to do. We're here to complement one another. And one thing, in light of the Olympics, those beautiful ice dancers and alpine skiers and all of these people did not land on that ice yesterday for the first time. So set realistic expectations. Don't expect to have it all figured out. You do just need to take that next step. And then the next one will come. We were not Olympians. They were not made in one day. It is decades of practice.
Well, I can tell you this from experience because I am a figure skater myself. I have started training myself I started skating at 33, so you never too old.
No.
I've been a dancer my whole life, but the transition has been amazing because if you set that goal, and I can tell you, it's been taking maybe about 7 years on and off and constant training, you're going to fall a lot and it hurts. I have got many bruises from falling, but if I had to take that attitude of every time I fell just to give up on it, I wouldn't have got any further. But it's through those failures and falling that you actually get stronger and you get more knowledgeable and you get muscle memories. And next time you get more of this resistance, you know how to push back. You know exactly what it takes. And I can guarantee you, I can tell you this as a skater, as a mom, and as a business owner, it's all about your mindset. I always say to people, you got to have a good attitude when you get on the ice because the ice can hear you. And if you speak negative and you don't think I've got this today, you have a higher likelihood of falling. So we always say, and even amongst us skaters, we talk about it like if you're not feeling it and you're feeling off, don't take the risk because not being in the right mindset can really throw you off. So I'm going to say that is some awesome content you've shared. And if you haven't yet downloaded Robin's 365 Opportunities Guide, go to mimikacooney.com and click on the Summit tab. We have a flurry of great speakers who've donated their time and effort to give you their really good content to help you take that action. Because just like you've said, Robin, right, if we don't take action, we know where, right? We can just sit there and it'll be another year gone.
And treading water will exhaust you. Let's not do that.
Exactly. So tell everyone, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best place to find you?
I would love for you to visit my site online. It is robindance.me, ROBINDANCE.me. You can find me there. I'm Robin Dance on Twitter, Pensive Robin on Instagram, and I would love for you to follow me and to reach out. For those of you who visit and subscribe to my blog, I have some extra goodies for you. So I hope you'll come and find that out. I actually have a couple of giveaways that are going to help you with your opportunities, but you've got to visit robindance.me to find those.
Definitely. And if you find what Robin had to share really useful, go ahead and share this with your friends. I'm sure you know somebody else who needs to hear these wise words today. So go ahead and click those share buttons below next to the video, or if somebody forwarded you an email, make sure to go sign up and go and comment on the blog as well. Like if you had any aha moments, if you've taken the download and you've used it, we'd love to celebrate along with you. Just like we mentioned, you need a supportive group who are with you, like-minded. So go ahead and add your comments. We want to celebrate with you and reach out to Robin and let her know you saw her on the summit so we can, really be there with you. But I'm going to say thanks again for sharing your awesomeness and all the preparation you've put into making today really great. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
So everyone, until next time, take care. Bye. Become a partner and join the Mimika TV family today.